to MSI Cooldown after a literally insane day of games from Reykjavik, Iceland. I'm Quickshot, joined by Vedius and Raz. Was busting a move during the ad break. Raz, did you have fun today? What do you think of the games?
Hell yeah, the games were a lot more funner than I expected. Every time I go into predicting the next day, I'm like, man, this feels like a boring day. Man, it's going to be one-sided. And then it's the opposite. So I'm happy with what's been happening so far.
How many group stages have we watched together, Raz?
Many.
Because
a lot.
You were there with me for the FPX group stage with Splice. How can you sit there and now still be surprised after this many years? We were there together for SKT RNG Fnatic too. Like, come on, man. It's group stages. These things always happen.
Well, let's take a look at how...
I'm never going to be the type to walk up and be like, oh, I expect upsets to happen, at least to the degree with Detonation focus me. I know we'll get into it, but like,
the upset did not happen. The upset didn't happen. Look, let's take a look at the results, of course. Mad Lions, Downmonkey, and RNG are still undefeated. Raz, I'll go to you first. The game was incredible, and I wanted the upset to happen, but Detonation focused me. Couldn't close it out, Raz.
I choose to believe Detonation focused me one. You know, if I go back to sleep tonight, it's because you're right. They played so well, and it's just been 2 games in a row with Detonation focused me, where it feels like they are playing much smarter than I really remembered and watched when they were playing domestically. And it started with bullying Khan in the top lane. Time and time again, he didn't even need the jungle help after a while. He was just doing it solo from Evie.
I think that what, to me, this opens up the conversation about is, like, draft. And the reason why I think that's so important is, for a long time, I think the best regions in the world could draft whatever they wanted, and because they just had better players, they would just win anyway. But we're now getting to a point where the rank 1 team in every region across the world has the players to be able to manipulate and use their champions properly. And that means the draft is so much more important. So when you get a good draft against a top team, you can push them to the very limit because you know what you're doing. And the only problem for DFM was, like, in this situation, they just overcommitted. If they just let the Baron do the work for them, instead they let their emotions get the better of them. And, like...
Put yourself in their shoes for a second. This is the first time that an LJL team has faced off against the #1 seed from a major region, from one of the big 4. They managed to pick up a win yesterday. Today, they were on the verge of winning. And I was invested. I was screaming backstage because I wanted the upset to happen. I mean, let's turn our attention to the next game that also, like, nearly killed my energy. Mad Lions and Pain Gaming. Vedius, what do you make of that? Because I said it was really exciting, and you said, well, not that much.
No, I was joking. Okay, I was joking. It was very stressful. It was very tense, but I think that it comes back again to this conversation about draft. And I love what Kaiser was saying in the interview, where he sent so much praise to Pain, because if Pain had just grouped 5v5 and had contested Mad at every objective, they would have just lost. Because with the gold advantage that Mad had, that was no way they were going to win. But they were able to find crazy plays like this. This was a little lucky, I will say, because the fact that he was able to steal this with a Zoe Q, but then what they did with it was just beautiful. They played the side lanes extremely well. They utilized the Tom Kench ultimate, and, like, going for this play, I think was, like, it was super fun. Did they have to do this play? I don't know, but it was like they were so close, and they came so close multiple times to being able to take this game off of Madden. I have nothing but respect for Pain, and they just go to show that they can still tangle with the best.
Yeah, 100%. It's fun to watch them play because you say draft, I agree. It's gotten to a point where you do have to care a lot about the draft when you're going up against these teams, or they feel like they get better and better.
Yeah.
You know, I already mentioned this with Detonation Focus Me, and it's certainly true with Pain, is that I don't know what's happening behind them scrims, but they are definitely growing into a beast, where I feel like my biggest criticism when I watch them domestically is that they group too much, they team fight too much, they lose track of side lanes a lot. This was literally the opposite for Pain, where they recognized their win condition was in their side lane, they played around it, and sure, they jumped the gun at the end, but, like, now that I look to the next game, it feels like we're just going to see a better and better Pain.
Raz, talk to me a little bit about Pain Gaming, how 2 of the matches, they've fallen behind early, but they've dug deep. They've found ways to get back into the game. You know, they took down the Wildcats a couple days ago. Today, they were on the verge of taking down Mad Lions. And both of those games, the common thread is that they fall behind, but they manage to find a way to still look good.
Yeah, it's the resilience from the players. Like, so when I was watching the game, the things that I really enjoyed watching were like, yes, the team fights, like how they clawed back when they were in a big a 5v5 setting. I know that Kaiser did mention like not having real engage, so if they had a huge like advantage, like yeah, sure you would get a poke on towards a Tom Kench who has cleanse, or if you get another person, Tom Kench would help. So I think this was a more difficult game for the opposition, but it does say quite a bit about Pain, the players themselves, the veteran talent. We keep talking about BRTT, but he's certainly, like the team themselves come back, and BRTT is a person that is always gonna, when you see these teams play, super confident, and you never see them kind of waffling in these moments. In big team fight moments, they take the fight. So I feel like they're ready for it. I'm really excited to see the next game, because for me, I'm never going to watch their games and expect them to like play too passively.
For me, Robo and Tinones have just been superstars. I think that they've been playing fantastically. Robo in particular, his Darius performance against the Wildcats, and again today his Camille. He was someone that I didn't have high expectations for coming into the tournament. I did know that Payne would usually play around him, but now you see what happens when Payne really put resources into him. And he did struggle against Armut, but he bounced back very well. And I think that he's definitely a player to watch as we move into the second round robin for sure.
Absolutely the case. And for me, watching BRTT is so great. He's one of the very few players who's almost as old as I am. Let's turn our attention, of course, to LCS. Cloud9, they picked up their first win. It was an interesting game to watch because it did feel like Infinity had the ability to find kills where they wanted, but Vedius, really, Cloud9 were in control. They played the map, and Perks was just unleashed on that Tristan.
I feel like Cloud9 just kept it simple. They went back to basics. They drafted a composition that was easy for them to execute. They knew they had the better scaling, and they didn't try and do anything too crazy. This fight in particular, I thought was very close. That Gangplank ultimate did a lot of work, but Fudge really stepped up here. He tanked up a lot of the damage. He allowed time for the carries to actually heal off the Drake, and with the damage he was able to do, Cloud9 ended up securing the next Drake off of this, and they're able to close out the game shortly after. So impressive stuff from Cloud9 overall. Hopefully we see this level of consistency as they also move into the second round robin.
Yeah, I love the draft from the opposition, I think. But like at the end, as you mentioned, Cloud9 just didn't want to take risks here. And you cannot overstate that enough. Like the fact that if they ended up losing this game, they're in a really bad position in this group. Like absolutely. So playing to the advantage that you have in the macro, like that one team fight you were talking about that where they could have easily lost, like the difference was literally just bursting the support as they were walking into your vision. Their vision control won them that fight. And so things like these, Cloud9 will be confident in that they have over a lot of the teams, the developmenting regions. So you just need to see more from them, because the expectations when they go up against the other major reasons that they actually play a big part. So that's what I want to see from them growing and growing too. When they do face against Dom1 once again, that is a banger.
Be a couple of days before that happens. I think they play on Monday, if I recall correctly. But let's move on. The drive to victory today, presented by Mercedes-Benz, is PSG Talon's ace in the bot lane at 12 minutes. Now, this particular play actually tilted Ender off the face of the earth, and it really just signaled how Talon could take control and just run over the rest of the game, Vedius.
I think, to me, it showcased why this team is considered one of the favorites in the group. And after they were dismantled by Mad, many people started to question, are PSG actually that strong? And then PSG came back and said, yeah, we are. Maple has been absolutely dominant in the mid lane. In the jungle as well, we've seen some very incredible performances, and I feel like that overall PSG is looking solid and setting us up for a great rematch between them and the Mad Lions in the near future.
What do you make of the rest of the games and the results from this group? Because I was talking with Ender quite a lot about it. And if you look at the 3-0 and the 0-3, but then you look at how the games played out, it's not indicative, right? And we've seen Mad Lions with a very controlled win, with a very scary win, and then a kind of difficult win. So do you think it's quite volatile going into next week, or do you still think Mad and Talon have the edge?
In my opinion, I still think those two are clearly the strongest two in the group. I think the Wildcats have struggled to find a clear identity or form that can net them some success. And while I think Pain has promise, the problem is with the position that they're in right now, they're going to have to find... It's fine if you can pull something back in the late game, but it seems to me like their early game is their biggest weakness right now. And PSG and Mads have proven that they have very dominant early games. So unless Pain are able to find a way to control the early game a little bit more, I think it's going to be difficult for them to suddenly upset and challenge for a spot out of this group.
Yeah, and the volatility is also just naturally, it's the first week of coming into patch after patch after patch. It's a new meta. And so teams are just trying to figure it out. Every time we walk into a Worlds play-ins or an MSI first week, it's the same thing. So the volatility for the top teams, especially from Damwon, because remember, they're having also like really close games. A lot of it's just the teams trying to figure out not only what is strong in the meta, but also what's good for them. And so that was a great example of a game where, hey, you know what? You get the pick on Aphelios, but Rumble, who's overheated, is the true carry. So we probably are not going to see that pick all too often in the next one as it gets banned. So I think every team is just still soul searching.
And I think what we also saw, and I'm surprised we haven't talked about it more, to be honest, is that Damwon look beatable. And you could sit there and you can make the same argument like, okay, maybe the draft wasn't the strongest, or like maybe DFM just had a really good comp, or maybe you can even throw the argument out like DFM just had a lucky game if you want to. But I think that what they have showcased is that this is not the same level of dominance that we would often see from a Damwon from last year. It doesn't seem like we're getting the same level of crispness, of precision. And I think that that just makes the tournament more exciting, in my opinion, because now how big is the gap between Damwon, RNG, Mad, and maybe even Cloud9 as we move forward into this tournament?
Classic, the gap. How big is it? We'll have to find out. We'll have to find out. Look, it is time for our MasterCard question of the day. Twitter user @Farascal asks, any oddball or sleeper picks that you guys think might pop up on this patch? I mean, I think we've seen a lot. Raz, I'm going to throw this one to you first.
Yeah, I'll just go for, take it as you may. I think Lulu as a pick will be seen more and more. We've already seen a little bit of like Kog'Maw being thrown in, Aphelios, and we're seeing a lot of Tahm Kench Varus, so naturally you'd want to have a mage support to match that. And maybe there'll be somebody that wants to pick up Lulu top lane and run Olaf. So it is much more flexible, and I think we'll, get more standard games. We'll see it more.
I think we have seen one Lulu already, though, but I can't remember if it won or lost. Yeah. Let's take a look at tomorrow's games coming up. It will be
not going to ask me?
Pentanet.gg, Unicorns of Love, as well as RNG. Obviously, the assumption here is that RNG will be smashing their way through, and we'll be taking a close look at UOL and Pentanet. Vedius, I'll go to you now. What do you think is going to happen between those two teams?
I think that RNG will not get upset and they will go 8-0. Okay. I do think that UOL and Pentanet suddenly became a lot more exciting after today's result. But I will give the edge to the Unicorns of Love. The thing is, they won't have a huge amount of time to prep and adapt, whereas it does seem that Pentanet are very quickly figuring out what is good for them on the current meta. So right now, I'm more on the tentative side of UOL, but I'm a little more optimistic about Pentanet than I was in the past.
Okay, Raz?
I'm going the opposite. I think Pentanet, for the same reason, I think UOL is a little outdated. Every time we see, or at least the drafts, I mean, they just very much undervalue Rumble as a pick. And also, they were trying to force the Kassadin for themselves when they, I think at the moment, this is not the meta that works for them. And they have no time to be able to change that going into the next stage. While Pentanet's actually been a lot more flexible, and they have an understanding of like picking more engaged like you've been hearing from Pabu. So more optimistic there.
Well, we'll have to see how it pans out. The action will start tomorrow. That is it from us here in Berlin. It was a fantastic day. For anyone that was watching Mad Lions vs. Pain on headphones, I apologize because I lost my mind. We'll be back tomorrow as Group A close out their group stage. We'll see you then. I'm Matt. Rose up! SK Telecom continue to rule the world! Uzi goes godlike!